A lone human drifted in the vastness of space aboard a battered starship barely holding together. The flickering lights and the dim hum of life support were the only signs of survival. The pilot Caden Voss stared at the holographic display showing a massive fleet closing in on his position. The Jorith Dominion, an empire that had crushed countless civilizations, was now after him. He had been a wanderer, a rogue trader hopping from one system to another avoiding attention, but fate had drawn him into a war he never wanted. A chance encounter with a dying alien had changed everything. The creature had been hunted down by the Jorith, and in its last moments it had handed Caden something ancient, something forbidden. The Dominion had ruled through absolute power and control, but this artifact threatened everything they stood for. The transmission came through a cold, commanding voice resonating through the ship. "Human, surrender the relic and your life will be spared." Caden smirked, leaning back in his chair as he watched the fleet tighten its formation around him. He knew the Jorith never kept their word. Surrender meant execution, delaying meant death. He only had one choice. With a deep breath he punched in a series of commands on his console. The ship lurched forward, engines screaming as it dove straight into the heart of the enemy formation. Blaster fire erupted from all sides, energy bolts scorching past his hull. Alarms blared, but he ignored them, weaving through the chaos with skill that defied logic. The Jorith were precise, ruthless, but they weren't ready for something as unpredictable as a desperate human. Caden's ship spiraled between two warcruisers, causing them to hesitate just long enough for him to breach their ranks. He had one goal: escape to the nearest warp corridor. If he reached it, he could disappear. But the Dominion wasn't known for letting prey escape. A colossal battleship moved to cut him off, charging up its main cannon. A single hit would reduce him to atoms. He clenched his fists, gritted his teeth, and made a decision that no sane pilot would make. He dived straight at the battleship. The Jorith commander, watching from his bridge, scoffed at the foolishness of the human. Pathetic, he thinks he can breach the Dominion's might. But then the impossible happened. Caden's ship flickered, vanishing for a fraction of a second. Just before impact, the battleship's cannon fired but hit nothing. The sensors scrambled, unable to process what had just happened. Caden reappeared on the other side, his ship trailing energy distortions. Impossible, the Jorith officer gasped. Caden had unknowingly activated the relic's power. His ship had phased through the attack through solid matter itself, and now he was free, racing toward the warp corridor before the Dominion could react. As his ship blinked into hyperspace, his mind swirled with questions. What had just happened? What was this relic truly? And if it was powerful enough to make the Jorith panic, then what else could it do? He had defied an empire, survived an encounter no one should have, and that meant only one thing. The hunt had just begun. Caden's ship hurtled through hyperspace, the hum of the engine steady, but his mind was anything but calm. He sat in the cockpit staring at the relic resting on the dashboard. It was a small metallic cube covered in intricate glowing patterns. It had just saved his life, allowing him to phase through the Jorith battleship's attack, but he had no idea how or why. His thoughts were interrupted by a proximity alert. His ship was approaching the exit point of the warp corridor, but something was wrong. The system had no habitable planets, no space stations, yet the scanners showed a structure floating in the darkness, a massive derelict station, long abandoned, covered in battle scars. Caden frowned, gripping the controls as he dropped out of warp. The station loomed before him, its size overwhelming. The relic pulsed faintly as if reacting to it. He hesitated, but he had no choice. His ship was low on fuel and supplies. He needed to find out if the station had anything useful. Docking was easier than expected. The automated systems were still active, allowing him to latch onto one of the airlocks. The moment he stepped inside the station, the relic pulsed again. This time a holographic interface flickered to life before him, displaying symbols and strange texts. He didn't recognize the language, but somehow he understood it. "Welcome, traveler. Do you seek knowledge or destruction?" Caden exhaled slowly. Well, that's a loaded question. He reached out, touching the interface. The station rumbled as systems awakened, corridors lighting up, air purifiers engaging. The place was old, ancient even, but it was still functional. He moved carefully through the hall, scanning for supplies, but what he found was far more valuable. A chamber filled with archives, floating data cubes containing information lost to the galaxy. He activated one and a projection appeared showing a battle between an unknown race and the Jorith Dominion, but these weren't ordinary soldiers. The unknown warriors wielded weapons that shimmered, bending reality itself, phasing in and out of existence just like he had done with his ship. Caden's heart pounded. He wasn't the first to use the relic, it belonged to them. Before he could process the implications, another alert flashed across his wrist. Communicator incoming vessels. Multiple Jorith warships were closing in. He cursed under his breath, grabbing the relic and the data cubes before sprinting back to his ship. The Dominion had tracked him faster than he expected. Maybe they had anticipated his escape route. Maybe the relic's activation had sent a signal. Whatever the reason, they were here and they weren't playing around. As he powered up his engines, the station's systems suddenly activated on their own. The entire structure groaned as energy surged through it. A voice echoed through the halls, cold, mechanical, yet alive. Protocol engaged defense systems online. Outside, the Jorith ships slowed their weapons priming, but before they could fire, the station retaliated. Automated turrets unfolded from its hull, firing energy beams unlike anything Caden had ever seen. The Jorith were caught off guard, their lead cruiser taking a direct hit and vanishing as if erased from existence. Caden didn't stick around to watch. He punched in the coordinates for another jump just as the station continued its onslaught. The last thing he saw before entering warp was the impossible Jorith battleship being pulled into a rift in space, torn apart piece by piece. As the stars blurred around him, Caden clenched the relic in his fist. The Jorith had feared this power, and now he understood why. The relic was a weapon. And he had just declared war. Caden sat in the cockpit staring at the relic as it pulsed with a slow rhythmic glow. The station was gone, erased by its own defense systems, taking several Jorith warships with it, but the Dominion wouldn't back down. They never did. His ship was running on borrowed time, the fuel reserves were dangerously low, and his supplies wouldn't last forever. He needed to lay low, find a place to regroup and figure out what to do next. But where could he go when the most powerful empire in the galaxy was hunting him? His answer came unexpectedly. The data cubes he had taken from the station had finished decrypting. The holographic display flickered, showing star maps, coordinates, and a single name: the Veil. Caden frowned, never having heard of such a place. It was deep in uncharted space, far from any known system. The notes attached to it were fragmented, but one message stood out. The last refuge of the forgotten, the key to defying the Dominion. He had no other choice. He locked in the coordinates and engaged the hyperdrive. The ship trembled as it pushed past its limits, the engine struggling, but he had to keep going. When he finally dropped out of warp, he found himself staring at a vast nebula swirling with electric blue storms. At the center of it all was a structure unlike anything he had ever seen, a colossal floating city carved from black stone and glowing with golden veins. It pulsed with energy, ancient yet alive. Caden's sensors picked up no signals, no transmissions, but he wasn't alone. A fleet of ships materialized from the storm surrounding him, sleek dark vessels with no visible weapons, yet exuding an undeniable sense of power. A voice echoed through his comm system, calm yet commanding. "State your purpose, trespasser." Caden took a deep breath, gripping the relic tightly. He had no idea who these people were, but if the Dominion feared them, they might be his only chance. "I seek refuge and answers." There was a long pause, then the ships adjusted their formation, guiding him toward the city. The voice returned, softer this time but no less firm. "Then prepare to understand what you have taken." As Caden's ship descended into the unknown, he felt the weight of the moment. He had defied the Jorith, fought against an empire that saw itself as invincible, but now he was stepping into something even greater. And he had no idea if he would survive it. Caden's ship landed on a platform carved from the black stone of the floating city. A soft golden glow pulsed beneath his feet as he stepped out, the air thick with an energy he couldn't explain. It wasn't just technology, it was something deeper, something ancient. A group of figures approached, cloaked in flowing robes. Their faces were hidden, but their presence was undeniable. Their leader, a tall figure with piercing silver eyes, stepped forward, studying him for a long moment before speaking. "You are uninvited, yet the relic has chosen you. That cannot be ignored." Caden tightened his grip on the cube, sensing the weight of their words. The Veil wasn't just a hidden city, it was something far greater. "You know what this is, don't you?" The leader nodded. "The Dominion has spent centuries hunting these relics, erasing all traces of their creators. They fear what they do not understand." Caden exhaled slowly. The Jorith had wiped out entire civilizations to keep this knowledge buried. Whatever the relic was, it was more than just a weapon, it was a piece of something larger. The leader turned and gestured for him to follow. Caden hesitated for only a second before stepping forward. They led him through vast corridors lined with glowing symbols, past massive chambers where strange energies pulsed through floating structures. Every step he took, the relic in his hand pulsed in response. Finally they reached the heart of the city, a grand chamber with a massive construct at its center, a towering monolith covered in the same intricate patterns as the relic. This is what remains of the architects, the ones who built the first great civilizations long before the Dominion. Their power was unmatched until the Jorith betrayed them. Caden's breath caught. The architects, he had heard whispers of them in old spacefaring legends, but if they were real, if their knowledge still existed, then why did they lose? The leader's expression darkened. Because power alone is not enough. They were divided, scattered. The Dominion exploited their weakness and erased them from history. Caden looked at the relic in his hands. Its soft glow felt heavier now, as if carrying the weight of an entire lost civilization. "And now the Dominion knows I have this. Yes, they will not stop until it is destroyed, or worse, until they control it." Caden clenched his jaw. He had spent his life avoiding trouble, staying out of wars and politics, but this wasn't just about survival anymore. The Dominion had built its empire on fear and destruction. They had wiped out entire species, erased knowledge that could have changed the galaxy. And now he was holding proof that their rule wasn't as absolute as they claimed. What do I do now? The leader studied him for a long moment, then reached out, touching the relic. The golden veins across the walls brightened as energy surged through the chamber. You decide. You can run, hide, and let history repeat itself, or you can become what the Dominion fears most. Caden felt the weight of the choice pressing down on him. He wasn't a soldier, he wasn't a hero, but for the first time in his life he had something worth fighting for. The Dominion thought they had wiped out the past. But he was about to prove them wrong. Caden stood in silence as the golden energy pulsed through the chamber. The relic in his hands hummed in response, as if awakening to something long forgotten. The Veil's leader watched him carefully, silver eyes unblinking. You have a choice, human. You can walk away, leave this place and fade into the void, or you can stand against the Dominion and change the course of history. Caden exhaled slowly. He had spent years surviving on the fringes of the galaxy, doing whatever it took to stay alive, but this was bigger than him. He had seen the Dominion's power firsthand, seen them erase entire civilizations without a second thought. If he walked away now, he'd be no better than those who had looked the other way before him. What happens if I fight? The leader extended a hand. The relic is one of many the architects left behind, weapons, knowledge, even technology beyond anything the Dominion controls, but they are scattered, hidden across the stars. We can help you unlock their power, but you must be the one to wield it. Caden glanced at the relic, its surface shifting as new patterns formed. His pulse quickened. Whatever this thing was, it had already saved his life once, and if there were more like it. What do I need to do? The leader nodded approvingly and gestured toward a circular platform at the center of the chamber. As Caden stepped onto it, the golden veins across the walls brightened. The air became heavy, charged with something ancient. The first step is understanding. A surge of energy shot through Caden's body, his vision flashing white. He gasped, stumbling back, but instead of falling he found himself somewhere else, floating above a vast battlefield, watching as towering figures wielded weapons that bent space itself. He saw the architects in their final stand against the Dominion warriors, cloaked in energy shields, striking with weapons that tore through ships as if they were paper. The Dominion should have lost. The architects had been stronger, faster, more advanced, but they had hesitated, they had doubted. And the Dominion had taken advantage of that doubt, turning their own power against them. The vision shifted. Caden saw a fleet unlike any he had ever imagined, massive black ships carved from the same strange stone as the Veil, each one pulsing with raw energy, waiting, sleeping. Waiting for someone to wake them. His vision snapped back to reality. His breath came in ragged gasps as he gripped the relic tighter. His hands were shaking, but not from fear. From understanding. These ships, these weapons, they still exist. The leader nodded, hidden, locked away until one worthy enough could find them. Caden's mind raced. If he could find these lost weapons, if he could awaken the architect's fleet, he wouldn't just be defying the Dominion. He'd be bringing their worst nightmare to life. Where do I start? The leader placed a hand on his shoulder, then let the hunt begin. Caden gripped the relic as the Veil's leader stepped back. The golden veins pulsed brighter as ancient mechanisms activated all around him. The weight of what he had just seen still pressed on his mind. The architects had lost not because they were weak, but because they had hesitated. If he was going to stand against the Dominion, he couldn't afford to make the same mistake. The leader turned and gestured toward a massive display that flickered to life, showing the galaxy spread out before them. A series of red markers blinked into existence, scattered across distant systems. These are the locations of the lost architect relics. Each one holds a piece of their power, but be warned, the Dominion knows of some of these sites. They will not let you take them without a fight. Caden smirked. Never expected them to. The leader's silver eyes gleamed with approval. Before you go, there is something you must understand. The relic you hold is more than just a key. It is a part of something larger. It will guide you, but it will also test you. If you are not strong enough, it will break you. Caden rolled his shoulders. I'll take my chances. The leader stepped aside and a corridor lit up, leading back to his ship. As he walked, he could feel the city itself humming with energy, watching, waiting. He had come here searching for answers. Now he was leaving with a purpose. As he powered up his ship, a new set of coordinates loaded into his navigation system. The first location was deep within an abandoned sector, a world long forgotten. The moment he engaged his thrusters, the Veil's fleet vanished back into the nebula, disappearing as if they had never been there at all. The Veil was not an army, they were guardians, watchers of history, but now history was waking up. The journey through hyperspace was rough. His ship was barely holding together after everything it had been through, but he pushed it forward, ignoring the warning lights. This wasn't just about survival anymore. When he dropped out of warp, his heart pounded. Before him was a shattered planet, its surface cracked and broken, a graveyard of ships surrounded it, ancient vessels drifting lifelessly through the void. His scanners picked up faint energy signatures deep beneath the surface. Whatever was down there was still alive in some way. But he wasn't alone. A Dominion warcruiser lurked on the far side of the planet, its hull dark against the stars, waiting, watching. Caden's grip tightened on the controls. If they were here, they knew what this place was. They were hunting for the same thing he was. He bared his teeth in a grin. Then let the race begin. Caden's ship twisted through the debris field, weaving between shattered hulls and drifting wreckage. The Dominion warcruiser loomed in the distance, its engines glowing as it moved into position. They had seen him now, there was no more hiding. His scanners locked onto the energy signature deep below the planet's surface, a buried structure, something massive pulsing with ancient power. That was his target. A sharp beep from his console, a squadron of Dominion fighters launched from the cruiser, streaking toward him. He exhaled, steadying his hands over the controls. If they wanted a fight, they were about to get one. Engines screaming, Caden dove toward the planet's surface, dodging the first wave of laser fire. The fighters swarmed behind him, their formation tight and precise. He yanked the throttle, pushing his ship into a spiraling descent. Atmosphere burned against his hull, but he didn't slow down. He needed to reach the ruins before they did. His ship's sensors screamed at him as the first shots grazed his shields. Red warning lights flickered, but he ignored them. He pulled the relic from his belt, gripping it tight. The last time it had saved him, he hadn't understood how, but now. He closed his eyes for a split second, focusing on the pulse of energy beneath his fingers. The relic burned hot, and then suddenly his ship shimmered. The next volley of laser fire passed straight through him. Caden grinned, slamming the thrusters and breaking through the cloud cover below. The ruins came into view, a colossal black temple rising from the cracked earth. The Dominion fighters hesitated, thrown off by his sudden phase maneuver. That hesitation cost them. Caden punched in landing coordinates, flipping his ship into a rough skid across the ground. He didn't wait for the engines to cool down. The moment the ramp opened, he was sprinting across the sand toward the entrance. The temple doors were already unlocking, as if sensing his arrival. The moment he stepped inside, the ground trembled. A deep voice resonated through the chamber, metallic and ancient. "You have come at last." Caden's breath hitched. He wasn't alone. Massive figures lined the walls, silent guardians of stone. Their eyes flickered with golden light as they slowly awakened. Outside, explosions roared. The Dominion had landed, fighters sweeping low as dropships deployed troops onto the ground. The relic burned in Caden's hand. He turned to face the awakening sentinels, his heart pounding. "If you're going to help me, now would be the time." The golden light in their eyes flared brighter. The temple trembled as the power of the architects surged through its walls. The relic was no longer just a key, it was a call to war. Caden clenched his fists as the first Dominion soldiers charged through the entrance. For the first time in history, the architects would rise again. And he would lead them.